Greetings. I want to talk about a project of the International Institute of Peace Studies and Global Philosophy called Education Aid. It's a project that a number of people have asked what it's about, where it comes from, what can they do to help, and so on. I thought the best way to communicate that is simply to share a few thoughts about its origin, what it hopes to do, and why I think it's important. It came to me when I worked for the Institute of Education at the University of London, when Bob Geldof was given an honorary degree, right? This is the man that made Live Aid happen. And it was a real pleasure to see Bob Geldof getting a degree from the University of London for Live Aid. And it made me think, why on earth can't educators around the planet do a kind of Live Aid? I mean, there we have, infrastructure in place. Bob Geldof got, 50 rock groups signed up in 5 different venues to do a massive concert around the planet, which was then filmed and recorded by numerous broadcasting stations, and it raised billions for one particular problem, famine in Ethiopia. My vision for Education Aid, which is modelled on Live Aid, would be similar. It would involve schools, colleges, universities, academies, seminaries, wherever learning goes on, taking off 1 day a year of their curriculum timetable and running a series of events in their location for charity fundraising and consciousness raising, fun events, plays, exhibitions, seminars, discussions, keynote lectures. You could invite the council of academic sponsors, say of a university, the alumni to come in. You could have Bill Gates coming in and talking at his university. You could have Bill Clinton or other politicians coming in and speaking at their universities. Bill Clinton come to Oxford, where he was a Rhodes Scholar, for instance. Sarah Maitland, a Christian mystic, apparently knew Bill Clinton when they were at Oxford together. So you could invite the great and the good once a year to come and give their time for free, to give a keynote speech, to run a seminar, to do a workshop. Why can't the world's wealthiest people, the most creative, the most intelligent, give some of their time, 1 day a year, at their old school, their old university, their old college? The event put on by the school or the college or whatever would be filmed, it would be recorded, it would have paying guests who come for the honour of hearing the talk. And I reckon you could raise millions around the planet, because every university in the world would be doing this simultaneously 1 day a year. It would be an extraordinary event, like a planetary awakening event 1 day a year, when normal school wouldn't apply. And other institutions could get involved, like libraries, for instance, the British Library and national libraries all over the world could have special events. They all have conference rooms attached. Museums could get involved, things like the British Museum, the Smithsonian in Washington. All the great museums of the planet would their educational centres too, like the Science Museum, they'd want to be part of Education Aid. If it was done properly and with intergovernmental agreement, Education Aid Day could become like a new banner of hope for the planet. My suggestion for this project comes out of my work as a philosopher of education. I believe passionately in schooling, in learning, in research, in study, in science and scholarship. Yet everywhere I've ever taught, everyone I've ever taught or talked to, scholars and philosophers and so on, every educational institution is always hard up for cash. There's never enough money for schooling. But there's always enough money for the military, for the intelligence, for the secret community of so-called intelligence people that monitor, or supposed to, bring security. But actually that's a kind of a never-ending spiral. Endless wars in Afghanistan and the Middle East, no end in sight. My reading of this, and I've taught students and thinkers from all different cultures, all different religious backgrounds, is that only through genuine education, genuine learning, genuine scholarship, can we actually get this planet back on track. This planet sadly has taken a wrong turning in which fear and terror rule the planet. I'm saying joy and love of learning love of wisdom can replace that. But how are we going to do it because there's no funding? Well, let's do education aid. Let's get all the teachers on the planet, all the students, all the pupils, right from primary school through to postgraduate, engaged in this project, education aid. It's simple, straightforward, and doable. In order to succeed, the media companies would have to be involved. BBC, ITV, Sky, CBS, all the big channels. Now they can do it. They've got the infrastructure. Most of the, well, I think just about probably every television company on the planet has an educational remit as part of its mission. BBC certainly, one of its jobs, the reason it has a license and funding, is to educate. At Langham Place, the headquarters of the BBC, there's a wonderful plaque on the wall dedicating the building to the Muses when it was opened by the Archbishop of Canterbury, I think back in the 30s or 20s, after the end of World War I and the horrors of that. This building went up and it says, the BBC will dedicate itself to education and the work of the Muses and so on. And the same with all genuine broadcasters and journalists around the planet. But the vision is even bigger than that, however, because companies nowadays are also learning organisations. This has become a very innovative approach to management and the running of the corporation. The old days of the workers just working has gone. In a world of the internet, of communications technology, knowledge is what actually counts. And Thomas Stewart, the editor of the Harvard Business Review, has brought this concept of intellectual capital to the fore. A company is only valuable insofar as its intellectual capital is high. It's knowledge that makes products. It's knowledge that motivates successful enterprise. So what I'm proposing is that the corporations of the planet could also get involved in Education Aid Day. Microsoft, Apple, Google, the big knowledge companies, even the manufacturing industry companies have their own research and development departments. They're premised on knowledge, without which we'd still be banging stones together to make fire, So the corporate sector could involve itself in Education Aid Day. They could have, instead of normal work that day, they'd have maybe, an afternoon off for the workers, the management and so on, to have like a seminar, like a series of speakers come in to talk about their contribution to the global knowledge economy, what their company's doing. And again, sponsorship, such events could be ticketed, they could fundraise. So the potential is huge. And what I'm proposing is, if the planet could get involved in this project together, we could raise literally billions. Now, a percentage, what I'm proposing is that a percentage, 33% of each ticket sold would remain in that company, school, college or institution for its own internal spending use. Another third would go to the National Committee of Education Aid and would be dispersed in the more needy parts of that nation. And the remaining third would go into a global pot internationally and would go to schools to fund scholarships and so on internationally. It's a simple project. But it's the kind of thing that I think this planet really needs right now. If you can help, if you'd like to get involved, you can look at our website, www.educationaid.net. It's got specific ideas about how you can get involved. You can contact us. This is too big a project for one little peace institute in the UK to do. We're a small institute, but we're rich in intellectual capital. And I'd like to see this project really taking off around the planet. Thank you.